Good morning, this is Ashley Rivera from Rexel. I'm the network and software specialist. Today we're going to talk about cybersecurity, managing your risks, and protecting your assets. So cybersecurity is big, especially in the manufacturing sites. Here you see $11.7 billion in the last 2 years of basically damages due and lost production, which is a huge amount of money to be losing, with 53% of industrial manufacturing have experienced any cybersecurity breach in their facility, anything. And usually it's due to any computers that aren't patched, any switches that aren't updated, anything of that sort, people just not being protective of their environments. And most of it is in the industrial field, is very poorly done. Just because we get unmanaged switches, we plug them into our PLCs just so we can get to them, and that's pretty much it. And that gives the risk of anybody being able to plug into your network and take control and do whatever they please to the PLCs, because most of the time our PLCs are not locked down as well. So in order to secure the network infrastructure, we'll take a couple things into consideration. First, who's accessing your network? Is it somebody that you don't want? Is it a contractor that needs just certain access to things? Is there any unwanted activity that's in your network? And if so, we need to know who's accessing it, how they're accessing it, where they're accessing it, and when they're accessing it. And you are able to see this with a couple of software installs that we have and we offer to you guys. So we also have content protection, which is our PLC software, which you can go in and protect your PLCs. So if an engineer goes in and has full control of the PLC, he will be able to sign in with his user account, either with Active Directory or through Factory Talk Security. You can set up your own. We'll get a little bit more in depth with that later. But they will be able to see only what you want them to see and be able to edit only what you want them to edit. You can also set up certain things to see what they edit and what they did to it to edit it. And that comes with the tamper detection, which basically shows all their activity that they have done to your PLC or to a switch or whatever it may be. They would be able to see this. So cybersecurity in manufacturing is pretty much the same as in the IT world, just a little bit different. So we have a few things here that we're going to take a look at. As far as, you have identity theft, which isn't huge in the manufacturing world, but it is possible. Depending on how you have your setup in your network, if you have them both combined, it is a bigger risk having your IT network with your OT network, because if there's a breach in the IT network, it can flood over to the OT network. Then you have phishing, which is pretty much emails to manufacturing employees. And if you're plugged into your OT network and you happen to click that email that you don't know what it is, if they send you a link, which is 9 times out of 10 what a lot of people they think it's an important email because they think IT has it where spam does not get through. They'll click the link and they'll either add their data to this, or it'll just be an automatic link that you can get pretty much backdoored, and people can hack into your network and take down your network for long periods of time, even for the simplest of all things. Then you have spear phishing, which is pretty much attacking only one person or a specific department in your facility. So if they go in and they have a certain part of your facility that they want to take control of, they're either going to go after one person to get to that part of the facility, or they're going to attack a certain couple of people who are in that specific department. And then you have spam messaging, which is huge in the manufacturing field, the manufacturing side. You would pretty much see this in the PLC. They would create messages inside of the PLC. They would send it, they would upload it without you guys knowing. And what would happen is it would just kill it because it would be doing other processes other than what it's supposed to be doing. And then you have the compromised web pages, which is kind of goes back to the emails, but this is pretty much they'll make you fill out any information to kind of fool you guys on how to, hey, we need this data, this data, this data. I'm your HR person. Obviously, that would be a little bit more lenient because pretty much everybody knows they're HR people, but it does happen. They do get emails from HR. They think they have to fill it out, and they go from there and fill it out. And that's how hackers can take control. So we have the managed and the unmanaged switches, which I wanted to bring up just because a lot of manufacturing plants used unmanaged switches in their cabinets just because they don't think they need any management in there. They just want to access their PLCs and their drives and anything else like that. The issue with that is, yes, it's less expensive, but it's just plug and play. Somebody could come in, plug into an unmanaged switch and take control of the PLC, the drives. They can make changes. They can also get into anything else that's plugged into that network. So if they're plugged into the IT side, if they know how to kind of do certain things, which most of the time they don't, but it's huge that people can sit there and take control of not only the manufacturing side, but also get into further into your network than before. So that's why we recommend managed switches, which gives you the quality of service option. We have DHCP snooping. These things will allow you to have full control of your network, configure it the way that you want it to be configured, but also you can disable ports, which is huge. That way, if you have a contractor or anybody coming in, they cannot just plug in. They would have to talk to you to enable a port to basically tell you everything that they are going to be doing when they plug into your network. So that's pretty much the differences between unmanaged and managed. It's a good idea to have a managed switch. The traffic is a big part as well. If you have an unmanaged switch, the traffic is going through each port and could flood your network that way, and possibly cause issues and downtime and cost you loss of production. So this is a converged plant-wide Ethernet model that Rockwell has created. No, you don't have to follow this. This is just a great way to kind of show you how certain things are supposed to be set up in the industrial environment. So at the top, you do have your enterprise network, which is your IT network, which is where all of your DNS, DHCP, anything that the IT guys have, they will have access to that, and they will also have access to the internet or the outside world. So that is where all that will take place. The next level down is where your firewalls are going to be and your virtual servers for your plant management. 9 times out of 10, you are supposed to have 2 firewalls, one for the process control side and one for the IT side. So they are separate. They have nothing to do with each other, but there's also not data being pushed from the IT side to the industrial side, which could cause issues to either the PLC, or if you have a certain laptop that just got updated, it could affect anything on the process control side if any updates reach those devices and the firmware do not match, or they just don't handle each other very well, which is why we like to separate the networks. The third level is basically site operations. So this is where your server is going to be with any of your software on it. So if you guys have a server with dedicated activations, that's where that would be. This is where your router would be, so it would have to route information. If you do have to go to the IT side, that's what this section would do. And the last section is pretty much levels 0 through 2, which is the cell area zone, which is pretty much your production lines. So this is where you would have device level ring set up on your devices so that way you have a redundancy. If something goes down, you would still be able to access your data. And then you also have wireless and cameras and little things like that, but on a managed switch to kind of segregate all that traffic and also keep you protected. So we're gonna watch a video here. All right, so basically that video was just discussing that if there was an engineer who plugged in, he was able to get through, his laptop had rights to get through onto the network. He plugged in, was able to access and sign on to Studio 5000. He signed on and only saw the routines that he was allowed to see and be able to make changes to. We'll get a little bit more in depth with Factory Talk Security in just a few minutes. So I just wanted to bring up some software that we have that gives you the ability to kind of have an extra layer of security and disaster recovery. So we have this software called Factory Talk Asset Center, which gives you that opportunity to audit whatever any user does, whether that would be a contractor or an engineer or a manager or whoever has access to that. You would be able to see what they do, if they made any changes, pretty much anything like that, and you can get reporting from your email. You will also be able to restrict anything as far as if you do not want a person to have access, if you want third-party devices to be included on there, they do offer that as well as also backups just in case something happens to that program or you lose a device in your asset center, you'd be able to get that back. All right, so the Factory Talk security software is almost identical to Active Directory, which is where you get all your user privileges, your group privileges. You can assign people certain rights and policies when they sign on to a PC. The only difference is this is more for Factory Talk software or Rockwell software, where you will go in and you can grant or deny them access to a specific software, to a specific program that you have. You'd be able to specify if there's certain routines you want them to see, certain tags you want to see, and it's all integrated if you want to integrate Active Directory, or you can just create a network-based directory that you will set up from start to finish. That's pretty much up to you what you guys would like to do. But you can authenticate the user just like you would on a PC. You can give guest access if you need guest access. So If a contractor's coming in for 2 days and you want to give them access for 2 days, you are able to do that. You are able to set a time that they were to be allowed to sign on. So let's say, for instance, they come in at 7 a.m. and they leave at 3 p.m. You'd be able to have it scheduled for that time frame, and after that, it would kick them off. And they would either have to contact you guys in order to get more time if they need it, or so on and so forth. So I added this slide in here. This is a actual site that is online that gives you access to hundreds of thousands of devices that are on either unmanaged switches or they are on managed switches that have no configuration on them. So what I did is I pulled a Rockwell one, and at this point in time when I pulled it, there was about 3,000 Rockwell devices that were on unmanaged or managed switches that they were acting unmanaged. And what this does is basically it brings up all these IP addresses of people who have unsecured devices that I could access at that point in time. Now, it is not just Rockwell. There are some Siemens devices on there. There are some other third-party devices. There's cameras. There's Cisco switches. So there's tons of information on here for people who just plug in things and want to get access to it. And what I had done is I actually was on a PLC for a manufacturing company that I could actually see all their information to their controller, which is a huge deal because people can get a ton of information from this site, such as IP addresses. They could see how your configs are. You can get onto the PLC and not only take control of the PLC program, but they can also make changes, which we all know that the littlest of all changes that get made make the biggest problems. So this is going to create huge downtime for some people. Like I said, it's not just Rockwell, it is also other devices and cameras and things like that, which a lot of us do not want people taking control of our manufacturing cameras that are pointing towards certain silos or pointing towards certain manufacturing equipment that you guys that it's very secure. So as far as Rexel is, we offer services that can help you out in these kind of situations. So Paul Sonato is our network engineer. He can go out and do a bunch of surveys, which we'll go over a few here, and kind of not go in depth, but if you have any questions, we are here to help. But he does do the network assessment survey, which you will do a complete walkthrough of the facility. They will get information from not only the manufacturing side, but also the IT side. Not very in depth, but they need to know certain things. They will take this information and they will send it off to an engineer, and they will give you pretty much a 92-page document of your whole entire network, what they recommend, what you're doing right, if there's anything that they could suggest, things like that. And they will have a meeting with you and discuss everything in that essence. And then we have the security posture survey, which they will go in and pretty much we call it Wireshark, which is our kind of pulling our traffic information and getting the information that we need as far as, is there something that's causing a ton of traffic? Is there something that's causing latency? Is there an IP address that shouldn't be in there? Things of that nature, kind of just getting information, pulling that information. And again, they're going to send it to an engineer, and then they're going to do the same thing. They're going to have a meeting with you, get all that information, and give you kind of steps or tricks on how to help. And we can also help you even further after that meeting to kind of get you where you guys need to be. So here's the journey that you would take for the cybersecurity. Obviously, you would get the security posture survey, and this would give you the ability to get a network design and secure your network in a proper way where you will not have to worry about who's hacking you or anything like that. It would give you that better feel of your manufacturing facility being safe and secure and being able to still do your job without having any restrictions. Then you have the network implementation, which is where you would go in and start doing these things. You do not have to do it all at once. You can take it piece by piece and slowly get your network up to speed, but it's better than nothing. And then you have your compute infrastructure, which is basically remote monitoring. So you can have remote access to your facility if that is allowed, and pretty much administration, which is if any of your managers want to see anything going on with your network, they can monitor it all through a web interface, and they don't have to access it in a way that they wouldn't be able to recognize. And then you would predict it, which is basically if your network fails, what is your solution? Like, what is your recovery process? How would you, if you guys went down for hours and hours, how would you guys get back up? Do you have a backup plan? Is there anything that we could do to help in order to get it backed up and recovered and you up and running within a timely manner instead of waiting hours and hours and having issues that could cause hours to days to months? So that is all I have. So if there's any questions, please feel free to, if you haven't already in the chat, please feel free to speak up and ask any questions that you have.